A pleasure to meet all at last, and welcome back to Nerf Secrets Revealed Tears of the Clown. So, 3 whole videos I've dedicated to the Rebel line in the last 3 installments of Tears of the Clown, which I did as a means to make up for some lost time that I unfortunately couldn't help but allow to pass for various reasons. But anyways, I'm basically going to go at it with another installment for this month here in June 2024. So, the 25th birthday has gone quite well in many different ways. And there was also a little surprise I put together for that very occasion. Anyways though, we're gonna get to business here in Tears of the Clown. Shrinking back to the corner again, and we're gonna focus this time on the Dino Squad blasters. Yeah, that's basically what it is. We're gonna go at it with a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 blasters in total. This is basically including 9 dart blasters and 2 super soakers. So without further ado, we're gonna get started on the original trilogy that came out a few years ago and technically would have been considered a successor to that of the Zombie Strike line. Because after 2020, Nerf would discontinue the likes of Zombie Strike, Elite, and Mega, and seemingly replace them with the likes of the supposed Elite 2.0, as well as the likes of Mega XL, even though that didn't last very long. And there was also Dino Squad, which all came out afterwards. 3 blasters originally came out, and we're going to start off with the smallest of the bunch, the Stego Smash. As the name implies, this is basically a Stegosaurus style blaster, but it works in a way like that of the Night Finder or Fire Strike. So I can't entirely be too sure, but these were unique blasters, mainly for the likes of design. And Nerf has been known for putting in a lot of quirks and a lot of features in their design cues. The Zombie Strike lineup was an extreme revolutionary way to show how creative Nerf could possibly be in terms of creating these different blasters. And I feel like that in a similar sense, why I feel like that Dino Squad would have been a replacement to the Zombie Strike lineup, it's basically because the Dino Squad blasters actually had a similar thing going on. In this case, Stegosaurus spines, well-detailed eyes and scale patterns, and other such things that dinosaurs were well regarded for back in the day, and even to this very day as well. Those have all been brought onto the Dino Squad line, and I feel like that Nerf has had a lot of thought put into this lineup, and knowing how the longevity of the series itself went through, I'm sure they could have gone at it a little more and brought up some new innovations and even tried other things with this lineup. But it unfortunately hasn't gotten too well, especially around here in 2024 when it's practically non-existent nowadays. Most likely because of the likes of newcomers like the Gelfire line. And I'm sure this lineup could have actually been big. Probably as big as the like of the Zombie Strike series. I would consider this to be no more than a spiritual successor, but since that failed, I'm sure that's why they brought back the Zombie Strike line and just called it Zombie instead. But anyways, in terms of giving this a ranking, for what it is, it's a good blaster. A good way to start another unique lineup. We'll put this at B for that very reason. The second blaster that came out from the original 3 that started it all was the Tricerablast. This is also a bit of a namesake indication, as this is in fact designed after that of the Triceratops, another popular dinosaur species. This one is in fact a barrel breaks down blaster in which the barrel breaks out in order for you to load a dart into the chamber. Then simply close it back up and fire. As simple as that pretty much is. It does also utilize that of a hammer shot like hammer function in order to prime the blaster, so it's not necessarily like a sledge fire. I would probably consider this to be like a combination of the sledge fire due to its barrel break feature and the hammer shot because of the hammer function. Those details alone pretty much give this blaster a new unique sense, which has unfortunately been overshadowed by the likes of other blasters released during its own particular time. And for that reason, I'm sure it has its fans in many ways, and even I've owned it at some point in time. It's a good blaster to keep a hold of, for various reasons. But unfortunately, I wouldn't say it's as good as the Stego Smash, so we'll put it at C. Then the third blaster that came around was the Rex Rampage. This was the big one that made us turn our eyes towards this lineup itself. Apart from the Tricerablast and Stego Smash having their own features and quirks, and design cues, and also unique color palettes, the Rex Rampage had itself a unique composition comprised of green, red, and white, with some parts of gray. And being that it's a T-Rex design, it was quite nice for them to be able to make it an appropriate size. It essentially, though, is basically just a large strife, complete with an attached scope that's not removable, similar in a way to that of the Ultra 9, which is really called the Feral, but you pretty much get my problem with that of these kind of namesake issues that Nerf has been known to have. Anyways, though, the Rex Rampage has the same thing going on, an attached scope you cannot remove. And then, of course, it has its own banana clip. A banana clip that does, of course, have its own unique design to it. A nice set of smooth, filleted edges, and hardly any details or texture, which I feel like could have been an opportunity for Nerf to put together in a similar way that they were able to design the likes of certain unique magazines in many different ways. But I guess that just couldn't happen in this case. Though at least they made it stand out from the likes of regular Nerf clips. And then, of course, there's dart storage in the back, which I unfortunately have. I feel like that was unnecessary. I mean, why have dart storage on the back of the blaster, especially when it could have been another spot for another clip? I just don't quite get it. I mean, they could accomplish it with the likes of the Long Strike CS6, as well as its modulus counterpart, the Extendor CS6, which I have a hold of as well. And I almost wonder, why couldn't they do the same with other blasters that had clip system as well? So I guess that just leaves me to give this a ranking of C, just the same as the Tricerablast. And well, that basically completes the original trio. We almost thought it was over, in the same way that the Mega XL line didn't last too long either, coming out with only 3 blasters. And then there was also the rival Curve Shot lineup, only 3 blasters. And it was basically just Nerf's little problem that went down in a place in time that's not even a year. I mean, I made a 2-hour-long video on that whole thing. If you could even call it a year, then it's literally the worst thing we've ever had in our life. Unlike 2020. So, 2022, however, did in fact give us more Dino Squad blasters. Beginning with the Raptor Slash. A Raptor-style blaster that's basically a handguard-style Maverick or Strong Arm. Yeah, it's basically a Rev 6 blaster with a handguard on it. Has that unique design of the likes of the Raptor, complete with small frills and a large set of teeth. So, that alone is a pretty unique way to showcase your dino enthusiasm, but other than that, its functionality is little more than that of a Maverick or Strong Arm. So we'll just put this at B for this very moment. Next came another blaster for 2022, the Armor Strike. Yes, this was actually another big blaster, much like that of the Rex Rampage, because what we have here is a blaster that also had its own large cylinder. But this one, unlike the Raptor Slash's 6 darts, this one could hold 8. And in the same sense, it could also hold 8 darts in the stock as well, which is in fact shaped like that of an Ankylosaurus club tail. So it's quite nice that Nerf is able to execute these designs to match up with that of their real-life counterparts, which have gone extinct many years ago. And the Armor Strike also does have a really nice color palette in it, with this nice chartreuse coloring, along with some hints of red and blue and a bit of tan. So I feel like that alone might make for one of the best color palettes I've seen on a Nerf blaster. However, there are 2 problems I've had with this blaster. 2 really big problems I've had with this blaster. The most obvious thing being that it's the price tag. This blaster, when it originally came out in 2022, cost $50. Wow. This was, in fact, I mean, this is a problem that has circulated with a number of things, but for 2022, they priced this blaster for $50. And I've had a similar thing go down with the Ultra 16. They priced it originally at $50 and had since brought it down to $42, which I felt like was still a bit too high, knowing the simplicity of the blaster itself and its overall design. And the Armor Strike, while it does have much more detail, is made to look like the Ankylosaurus, and it has itself arguably even more capacity than the likes of the Ultra 16. It still just doesn't make any sort of sense. They priced the Rex Rampage at $40 when it originally came out, and that was mainly because it had motorized power to it, it had a larger shell to that of other blasters, it had an attached scope, it had a banana clip, and it had dart storage, and a lot of darts. So with the likes of the Armor Strike, having itself a price tag that's even higher than the Rex Rampage ultimately makes no sense. It's not even battery powered. And then again, the batteries would have costed even more for the Rex Rampage. So I feel like the dividends just have no clear rhyme or reason. So the second problem I've had with it though is unfortunately it fits way too small. The blaster itself is technically made to act as if smaller kids or younger people as a whole with smaller sized hands and other such parts of the body basically could hold on to this blaster, which I'm sure it does its job well in that department by all accounts. But still, that blaster is crazy small for my own body type. I mean, that alone is kind of weird. And you probably even remember when I did an episode of Nerf Secret Reveal Distance Gauge, and I used this blaster in a range test. I have made a bit of a complaint about this as well, so all in all, I would consider the Armor Strike to be a bit on the low side. The price alone was a big problem for it, and the proportions kind of hindered it even further. So this is an unfortunate situation where I'm going to have to put this down in the D ranking. With that covers 2022. Next, we're going to move on to 2023, and their basic lineup consisted of the likes of a few more blasters. We're going to start off with the Pterodactyl. Basically, a pterodactyl style blaster, which has itself storage in the stock for extra darts, a small pump slide on the bottom, as well as its own unique AR system. So this is a blaster that, once again, seems to have simplicity in it, but with its mechanism, does in fact allow for it to have itself a fair price. Much more than that of the Armor Strike. So we're a step in the right direction, maybe a few. Though I can't entirely be sure about this blaster, its simple functionality, I feel like, does make it a bit average. So maybe this doesn't seem that right to some people out there, but all in all, a pterodactyl blaster, which I'm sure could have been redesigned to actually be a little more accurate to that of the pterodactyl. I mean, there's a head crest-like portion at the very top. Almost reminds me of that of the Parasaurolophus, which certainly is not a flying reptile. I mean, they could swim pretty well, but flying, maybe not so much. So the pterodactyl will end up in the C tier for all these reasons accounted for. Next, we're going to come on to a double pack, which consisted of a Tricerablast redesign and a Jolt Blaster. Yeah, it seems appropriate that every single lineup apparently needs its own Jolt counterpart. And we're going to start off with the Jolt counterpart first, which unfortunately has gone unnamed, but the name of which that I'm going to refer to it as is the Horn Shot. Because it, much like the Tricerablast, has its own set of Triceratops-like horns and a frill in the back end of it. So it's basically a little more than that of the Tricerablast if it were shrunken down to the size of a Jolt. So I can't entirely say much about this one as well. So we'll just put this at C, just as well, like the Pterodactyl. And the second blaster that came out of the two-pack also has been unnamed, but also has itself a functionality that's similar to that of the Tricerablast. And if you're probably thinking Rex Rampage ripoff, maybe not so much. It almost looks like that of a Baryonyx or even another theropod type dinosaur. So I feel like that in this case, we'll just call this one the Theropod Slam. So the Theropod Slam and Hornshot, it was a dual pack that came out around 2023 to go alongside the likes of the Pterodac. And I would say that Theropod Slam does have more improvements than that of the Hornshot, and maybe even the likes of the Tricerablast itself. So it's nice Nerf was able to sometimes go back to their older designs and tweak them a bit and re-release them. That's why we eventually came along with better variations of the likes of the Spectre Rev 5, Barrel Break IX2, Recon CS6, and other blasters as well. The likes of the Elite line and even the 2.0 or Super line, as I've called it over the years, they sometimes have blasters that are actually better in many ways compared to their original counterparts. So the Theropod Slam will get a B ranking. So putting it a few steps above the Tricerablast, despite pretty much having the same functionality and design overall, minus the details, of course. Next, we're going to get on to another dual pack. This basically consisted of the likes of a Stego Smash recoloring, which it was more yellow as opposed to blue. So I'm basically going to skip that because it's just another Stego Smash, but recolored. However, the second blaster in the dual pack, which was kind of like that of a Dimetrodon or even Spinosaurus, due to it having a sail-like detail across the top, that basically leads me to refer to this as the Sail Stormer. But other than that, it's little more than just a Stego Smash in functionality. But at least for design, we have another dinosaur species to cover. So the Sail Stormer will in fact be getting an A, because I found this to actually be better than the likes of the Stego Smash, mostly for performance. And so far, that's the only A ranking we have here. But let's get on to the Super Soakers. Yeah, that's right. Much like other lineups, the Dino Squad had to have Super Soakers in it just as well. There were only 2 Super Soaker blasters released, however. Even to this day, I haven't heard much about Nerf making more Dino Squad blasters, so we'll basically just keep at it with the last 2 we have here. The first was the Dino Soak. Basically, just that of a Dilophosaurus. Obviously catering to the likes of the belief that the Dilophosaurus could spit venom out of its mouth. So it was nice for them to make a Jurassic Park connection, but we still do know that the Dilophosaurus doesn't actually spit venom. Nor was it as small as it was pictured in the movie. It was actually much bigger, and even had a different sort of facial structure compared to the movie version. But still, the idea of a Dilophosaurus squirting venom is still rather captivating to a lot of people. So I guess we'll just leave this one at B ranking, because it is a unique way to bring along the Dilophosaurus to the lineup. And the second is the Raptor Surge. Yeah, that's right. They brought along the Raptor yet again. So I guess some recycling was there just for the heck of it. And there's not much more to say. A Raptor-styled Super Soaker Blaster. Yeah, so I'll leave this one at B though, just because I'm feeling generous on this part. And there you pretty much have it. This is what I consider to be a good representation of the Dino Squad blaster lineup as a whole from start to finish. As I've mentioned though, there hasn't been much in terms of news about Nerf wanting to bring back the Dino Squad lineup, or at least add any new material to it. And it's probably because they've been spending a lot of good money trying to get the Minecraft blaster lineup, the Gelfire lineup, and even others along for the ride. And frankly, that could be for the best. Maybe one day I will talk about the Gelfire lineup if they have a lot of blasters worth talking about. And in a similar sense, there are a lot of other lineups that I should also cover in the future. For now though, I'm going to take a bit of a break, just like how I've done before that. However, I will return bigger and probably better with Tears of the Clown content. And maybe there will be a lot of material for me to cover for the other lineups I mentioned, or otherwise. So, if you want to see more, go down on the channel. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, follow me wherever you can find me, and stay on the Hollywood side.